one of the biggest hubs of metals tradings. You got Shanghai and you got United Arab Emirates as massive hubs for commodity trading, and which ought to very quickly, I think, when this all breaks, expose the London Metals Exchange and the COMEX for what it really is, and it is no more than a glorified Ponzi scheme, because all of these contracts, when you realize the LBMA admits to trading 10 times the amount of shares or trades as they post. They trade right now 292 million ounces of silver a day. And if they're 10 times understating it, that's almost 3 billion ounces of silver in paper contracts, which is 3 times plus the annual mine supply. And so when you talk about, this fractionalized system that could break, I think that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing a system where gold is taking center stage, and the repatriation from the Bank of England, which is the LBMA, and from the New York Fed, which is COMEX, which have been safe forever. These countries don't care. They want to repatriate it. And I think gold has a central role. And, this is why it was reclassified Tier 1. This is why they've been buying it. And they haven't been honest, if I had to bet, about how much they've been buying it. They use all sorts of opaque purchasing methods, and including sovereign wealth funds, and all of the trading on the London Metals LBMA is over the counter.
Schectman highlights a strategic alliance among Brics nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, who are quietly forming a coalition to challenge Western economic dominance, with an astonishing 59 countries expressing interest in joining and Saudi Arabia making calculated diplomatic moves. They are discreetly developing a common settlement currency, potentially backed by gold. This bold move could fundamentally shift global power dynamics and expose the vulnerabilities of Western hegemony. Schectman warns of a colossal Ponzi scheme orchestrated by these nations to undermine the US economy. This strategy, reminiscent of Sun Tzu's Art of War, involves gradual covert actions to minimize Western scrutiny while building a powerful financial alliance. The ramifications are immense, with vast amounts of gold being repatriated from Western vaults and the potential establishment of a new financial order. The stakes are high as these nations accumulate significant gold reserves and prepare for a world where the US dollar is no longer the dominant currency. Schectman argues that this stealthy accumulation of gold and the creation of a new settlement system could destabilize the Western financial system, leading to unprecedented economic shifts.
You look at the Brics, and they've been doing things in a very regimented fashion, and they've been taking their time building what amounts to a very critical mass, very slowly and very rationally. They haven't been rushing to do this, and in a very stealth manner. I think that's really one of the things that they are very good at, is doing this in a way that will be very difficult to be challenged, and not being overly transparent in their decisions and in how they are building this coalition. They don't announce really which of the countries are. They tell us that are 59 that want to join, but they don't tell us which. They tell us they're working on a common settlement currency. They don't tell us when they are going to issue it. They are ambiguous at best, and I think that's part of the deal. You take a look at the actions of Saudi Arabia, and it seems as though they are also playing both sides of the fence and using misdirection. On one hand, they're still friendly with the West, but they turn down an invitation to the G7 meeting, while at the same time send their finance ministers to the Brics meeting in Russia. So, this is a deal where I think when you talk about standing up to the Western hegemony, this is something that this is, kind of the little by little by little by little then all at once theory, in that they're doing things in a fashion that I think is not really attracting too much Western attention. Look at how much the lack of any media attention in the West. Yet when they actually issue some sort of a common settlement currency, or when they bring into the fold potentially another 59 countries to join this, you're talking the majority of every person on the planet, the majority of the shipping routes, the majority of the commodities, not just precious metals, but base metals, and the majority of the rare earths needed, and also not only the majority of the rare earths, but also the processing of the rare earths that are needed for a green economy, for the battery production, as an example. I think what they do is indeed very much more like the art of war, the misdirection tactic, rather than right in your face and very transparent about it, maybe the way that the United States is. So at least that's what I think about when I hear that phrase. I think the West has shown them who they are, who we are. We're a country that imposes sanctions. We are a country that goes around the world that is viewed as being hypocritical in the way that we do things, the way that we act, and I think they are using this type of overt aggression, I guess you could say, against us. Even in the way, as an example, that Putin spoke at the meeting that they had with North Korea. He says Russia has always supported and will continue to support the DPRK and the heroic Korean people, and here it is, in their opposition to the insidious, dangerous, and aggressive enemy. So that's the way that we are being portrayed, and I think they understand who we are, and they are using that aggression against us. And this is what is bringing into the fold all of these countries, saying we know who the West is. Look what they are doing to us. Look at how they can play both sides, or how the rules don't apply to them, and how, they will sanction China for giving money to Russia, but no one is sanctioning us for giving money to the Ukraine. What's good for the goose is not for the gander. That would be at least what I would take away from that comment. And I think it is a hell of a rallying cry, actually. It is a convincing statement to countries that, never would have had the nerve to stand up to the West, or the wherewithal, or the coordination. But that's what this safety in numbers type of mentality is fostering. And I think we'll see more of that. It'll be interesting to see which of the 59 countries, or who the list is of the 59 countries that have already expressed interest in joining the Brics. And I would bet a lot of them are doing it exactly because they know who the West is. They know who their enemy is. And that I don't think will change. It's just like the Western media, talking about how China has stopped accumulating gold due to 1 month of numbers not increasing. This is the same media that for my whole career would have told us that the numbers that come out of China are not realistic, that they are massively understated, that they don't change for years on end. And they're the largest producers of it in the world. They've been using our trade imbalance for years to mine even gold that was uneconomical for them. So why would they tell us how much that they truly own? And when you talk about Alistair, he'll tell you they have 38,000 metric tons. The Chinese will tell you they have like 26 or 2,700, not 38,000. And, here again, I guess you could say the same thing about the West, or are they just being deceitful in that supposedly we have 8,300 metric tons or whatnot, and has been audited since 1956. It is in the vested interest of all of these countries to not be transparent when it comes to something like gold. And when you look at the Chinese, who are the largest producers, the largest accumulators of it in the world, I would argue, just like the analysts from Bank of Montreal said, and just like the analysts at the IMF said, that China and India and these countries are accumulating and producing far more gold than they are telling us about. So I think that's exactly what they're doing, because they will issue, I do believe, if you believe what they're saying about this unit, which has been validated by the head of the New Development Bank, that it is 40% gold. It makes a whole hell of a lot of sense why these countries not only have been buying gold, but repatriating it. All of these countries from Africa and from the Middle East have been repatriating their gold. India just repatriated 100 metric tons from the Bank of England after buying 1.5 times as much as it did all of last year, just in the first 4 months. So there is a race to accumulate gold, but to possess it, to remove counterparty risk. And that in and of itself is what will ultimately be the impetus to break, if you will, the cartel stranglehold, the Western cartel stranglehold on the price of gold. And when you realize how the United Arab Emirates is in the mix in all of this, not only as a member of Brics, but also as a co-developer of Project M-Bridge, which is the cross-border payment system that I believe will be used to run the new unit. One of the biggest hubs of metals tradings. You got Shanghai, and you got United Arab Emirates as massive hubs for commodity trading, and which ought to very quickly, I think, when this all breaks, expose the London Metals Exchange and the COMEX for what it really is. And it is no more than a glorified Ponzi scheme, because all of these contracts, when you realize the LBMA admits to trading 10 times the amount of shares or trades as they post. They trade right now 292 million ounces of silver a day. And if they're 10 times understating it, that's almost 3 billion ounces of silver in paper contracts, which is 3 times plus the annual mine supply. And so when you talk about, this fractionalized system that could break, I think that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing a system where gold is taking center stage, and the repatriation from the Bank of England, which is the LBMA, and from the New York Fed, which is COMEX, which have been safe forever. These countries don't care. They want to repatriate it. And I think gold has a central role. And, this is why it was reclassified tier 1. This is why they've been buying it. And they haven't been honest, if I had to bet, about how much they've been buying it. They use all sorts of opaque purchasing methods, and including sovereign wealth funds, and all of the trading on the London Metals LBMA is over the counter. It's not an exchange type of platform like the COMEX is, which means there's far less transparency, far less regulation, and it's mutual, bilateral. It's trader to trader. So I would argue that these countries have been accumulating gold far more than they're letting on, because it will have a very significant role. And I've said that forever. Why else would the BIS have reclassified it as the only other tier 1 asset? And why else would all of these banks not only been buying it, but more tellingly, repatriating it? The removal of counterparty risk, I think, is huge. And it will be part of a new system, a new common settlement system that allows all of these countries to use their own central bank digital currencies through the Project M bridge, but settle in a common settlement currency, which won't be the dollar. It will be basically gold, and it's being remonetized across the globe. So it would be in their best interest to keep it on the down low. You tell everyone what you're doing, and all of a sudden it becomes the hot trade, and you get crowded out of your own aspirations. So all of that makes sense to me.